my question was like, how do I stay that? What do I have to pay attention to on my day to day, right?
Yeah.
On how my being, the beingness of the soul, how am I being on a day to day, to stay in alignment with what I truly want and what I truly intend.
So
Right.
I have an answer for that.
Okay.
It's what I coach people to do, and the ones that actually do it when it's such a high level, I mean, it blows their mind in a short amount of time with far less effort, without a damn strategy to go off of.
Yeah.
So it's a practice, and it starts with this: when you wake up in the morning, if your alarm clock goes off or you wake up naturally, doesn't matter. As soon as you become aware that you're awake, before you get out of bed, set an intention. Who do I desire to be today?
Yeah.
Like, how would I want to think? What do I want to feel? Like elevated emotions, forward moving, the highest and best always happens for me. Like, who do I want to show up as today, as the highest and best version? And who do I no longer want to be? Let me remind myself of yesterday where I fell from grace, where I maybe overreacted, right? I'm not going to be that person. I'm going to remind myself before I even get out of bed. Yeah. And then, like, for example, going and sitting down and doing gratitude. Like, there's so many benefits to that. You're in a state of appreciation for already receiving. Yeah. So writing out some things that you currently have that you're grateful for, and then writing out the things you don't have, but put yourself in that state of being as if you do already have them. And then you got to sit down and with that intention of what you want to focus on to visualize, and you sit down and you just make an agreement with yourself. I'm not getting up until I connect to that inexperience to the point where I actually believe I'm experiencing it. Now, if you do that, you may not hit it every day. You're not going to hit that target all the time. However, with practice over time, you will. It's a mental emotional rehearsal of that end result. And you can make that thought in your imagination more real than an experience.
Fam, what's up? Welcome back to the CEO Pulse Podcast, where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. Another great episode of the Mindset Monday series with my co-host, Justin Thorstad. Justin.
I like
it.
Nice. Thank you. Appreciate that.
How'd you like them apples?
That was good. That was good. It was great.
That was very good.
Yeah,
it was really good. I mean, I think like talent at its finest.
Right? It was the greatest performance you've ever had.
The greatest performance ever. Very, very intentional. Oh. So just for full disclosure, we actually did this about 3 minutes ago.
Yeah.
The second time went better, but we weren't recording. So we
audio.
Had to go back.
No
we weren't
audio.
like, I don't think I was intentional about clicking that recording button.
Clearly.
Yeah. So now I am, which takes me into the topic for today's podcast, which is the power of intention. It's interesting, man, but I feel like we were having a conversation right before this we got into the podcast room, but we're going to take this in a bit of a different direction, right? Intention is always, I feel like it's one of those words that gets abused and mistreated at this point. Kind of like that.
It's a buzzword.
Yeah, buzzword. Yeah. Like the term entrepreneur, right? I'm an entrepreneur. Like, no, you're just unemployed.
Yeah, I'm broke and want to sound important.
You want to sound important. Yeah, exactly. So kind of like that. But it's intention. The power of intention is I feel like, especially in the growth community, like it's one of those words that my intention is this, or you have to be intentional about things. But what is it really? What does it really mean?
Yeah, I love this conversation.
I've studied that for years, right? And I think when I first got exposed to it was maybe 5-6 years ago. I read The Power of Intention by Wayne Dyer, right?
Yeah, great book.
Great book, phenomenal book, and I mean it really has a different perspective as to how we go about being intentional in our lives. And so that was the first time I kind of went through it. I go back to the book and I read it once a year. The crazy thing is that I feel like every time I go back I learn it to a deeper state.
Of course.
And I just went through the thing. I was like, man, I feel like now I understand it. But I've been reading the damn thing for 6 years.
You'll understand it even more next time.
Yeah. So there's always stuff that kind of bubbles up, right, as we're going through that learning process. But the power of intention is it's more of an energy than something that we do.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's what I want to highlight, today on the podcast. And I want to really lean on that book. So if you haven't read it, if you're listening to the podcast, you haven't read The Power of Intention by Wayne Dyer. I don't want to turn this into a book club or anything like that, but it's a book that's helped me quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's shown me a whole different, perspective on being in alignment with manifestation, with the power of universal energy. And yeah, this is one of those episodes where we go woo real quick.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And what's wrong with the book club? But yeah, I love what you said, because I think a lot of people think of intention as like having a goal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, that's not it. That's a goal. An intention really is an energy.
Right.
And so it's all about, if you want to create, if you want to have an experience that you are a creator and you can make something manifest from thought and your energy, like, you'd have to have a clear intention. Right. And that's why, hence the title, Power of Intention, right? Like, I haven't read that book in years, but I just downloaded it. I'm gonna listen to it again.
Yeah.
You inspired me. Thank you. Seriously, just because of the value you got from it. And, no information is a one and done. Like, you don't read a book and be like, oh, I'm fixed, or I mastered this. Like, you've got to do it over and over and over again, right?
Yeah.
And besides, the first time you learn something new, it's a point of reference. Now you go apply that and implement it in your life, and you have an experience of it, and then you hear the same information again, you'll hear different things about the same information. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's the beautiful process of it. Whereas most people are one and done. So good on you for the repetition once a year.
I think also what happens is, like, we find ourselves in different stages of life.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? We have different stages of life, different stages of understanding, and like the question that was kind of bubbling up for me, like, what does that even mean? Like, okay, if I'm intentional about something, does it mean that I mapped it out and I have a plan behind it? But it's the way that I've gotten to understand it now. It's not a thing that we do. it's an energy field. So when you're tapped into the power of intention, you're in alignment with the power of intention. You're in alignment with universal power. That's when the thing, that's when, we hear, right? Manifestation. People, some people are just flowing through life, and some people are breaking their heads, at every turn with a different wall.
Yeah, grinding it out.
And so my question is that, right? How do you stay in alignment? First off, what does that look like? What does the power of intention look like? And how do we stay in alignment with that, right, as we're going through it, so we can do life easier, we can flow through life as opposed to grind through life?
Well, that is the question, right?
Yeah.
What is intention? What does that look like?
Yeah.
Because it is so grossly misunderstood, and maybe it's lack of content for clarity. However, there's the power of intention. You can start there, right?
Yeah.
And listening to this podcast. So,
bam.
Well, I'll give my opinion on it.
Yeah.
So,
please.
I learned this in a personal development seminar, actually, nearly 10 years ago. And that it was a simple statement. When the intention's clear, the mechanism will appear. And so that insinuates that any mechanism, any strategy can get you where you want to go, because there's infinite ways you could. And so what's a clear intention then? Well, what's your objective? What's the end result? And how you be intentional is, again, it's a state of being. It's an energy. If you think about it, like, you can cognitively think about the end result and a strategy to get there.
Right.
And, that's just the best guess on your strategy, because what the hell do you know if you've never done it before? You can't possibly plan for or predict what's going to happen, X factors, external circumstances. So your strategy is probably shit.
Yeah.
However, if you know exactly what the end result is and you embody the end result as if it's already happened, right? So it's like a mental and emotional rehearsal of that state of being, of it's already done. That's a clear intention. Think about it. Like, if you don't have a clear intention of your future and you're not using that to define who you're becoming, which is really a process of unbecoming who you think you're not. But anyways, that's a different podcast. you've got to go there in the mind and body. And that really is an energy. It's an emotion.
Yeah.
And if you don't rehearse that, then vibrationally, you won't be in alignment with it. Do you know what I mean? Like it has to resonate. You've got to be on the same frequency, therefore a vibration. And most people are waiting for, money to come in so they can feel abundant. They're waiting on that opportunity so they can feel successful. They're waiting on that, love of their life in order to feel worthy of receiving. They're waiting on an external cause to affect their state. And there's a law of reversibility, which states that if a circumstance can dictate your state, then clearly your emotions, an emotion can create a circumstance. Like it must go both ways because it's energy.
Right.
And so what we're talking about, in my opinion, is a clear intention really is like you've already experienced that end result in your imagination, and you're retraining and reprogramming your mind and body to reflect that it's already occurred. Hence, you walk around with that state of being that it's already done, and that's how it just unfolds. If you want to create the highest and best end result, even greater than what your initial intention was, and with less effort and less time.
I love that, and I think you're spot on, right? On the ultimate outcome of what intention truly is. That's the product that comes out on the other side of that conveyor, right? That intentional or conveyor of intention, per se. But how do we stay in alignment with that kind of stuff? Like, do I just wake up one day and then, I'm going to stay absolutely positive today through it all. I'm going to, envision this, and then I'm going to stay, strong. I know, and this is interesting, but this is on this go around of reading the book again. This was the big lesson. I know, I understood what the product looked like, right? Per se, the ultimate result, the stuff that I wanted, my intention behind it. But the staying in alignment with it, meaning emotionally, energetically, right? Where I'm not going all over the place, and I have that sense of faith and trust and belief behind it. Like that was a hard thing for me to have some stickability behind.
Oh yeah, you're the only one that suffers with that.
Yeah, I know, I'm the only dude.
You're broken.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the thing, right? And then I took a look at I reread the chapter again like 3 or 4 times, but it talks about the phases of intention. And that made a lot of sense. So you map out and this is how I see it now, right? But you're mapping out whatever you want, wherever you're intending, right, to happen. Your energies behind it. For example, this is I want this outcome, and I have to visualize it. I have to be in it. I have to feel myself in it. I have to bring it to reality in terms of motion and energy before it's a tangible, right, per se.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get that, right? It's part of the visualization. And then what? Like, do I just sit there and if I keep complaining, I don't know, if I complain about the world, I'm no longer in alignment with that same level of vibration.
Not at all.
Right? So my question was like, how do I stay that? What do I have to pay attention to on my day-to-day, right?
Yeah.
On how my being, the beingness of the soul, how am I being on a day-to-day to stay in alignment with what I truly want and what I truly intend.
So
right.
I have an answer for that.
Okay.
It's what I coach people to do. And the ones that actually do it when it's such a high level, I mean, it blows their mind in a short amount of time with far less effort, without a damn strategy to go off of.
Yeah.
So it's a practice. And it starts with this. When you wake up in the morning, if your alarm clock goes off or you wake up naturally, doesn't matter. As soon as you become aware that you're awake, before you get out of bed, set an intention. Who do I desire to be today? Yeah. Like, how would I want to think? What do I want to feel? Like elevated emotions, forward moving, the highest and best always happens for me. Like, who do I want to show up as today, as the highest and best version? And who do I no longer want to be? Let me remind myself of yesterday where I fell from grace, where I maybe overreacted, right? I'm not going to be that person. I'm going to remind myself before I even get out of bed, yeah? And then, like, for example, going and sitting down and doing gratitude. Like, there's so many benefits to that. You're in a state of appreciation for already receiving. Yeah. So writing out some things that you currently have that you're grateful for, and then writing out the things you don't have, but put yourself in that state of being as if you do already have them. And then you got to sit down and with that intention of what you want to focus on to visualize, And you sit down and you just make an agreement with yourself. I'm not getting up until I connect to that inexperience to the point where I actually believe I'm experiencing it. Now, if you do that, you may not hit it every day. You're not going to hit that target all the time. However, with practice over time, you will. It's a mental, emotional rehearsal of that end result. And you can make that thought in your imagination more real than an experience. And I know that you're capable of that. How do we know? Because you dream. And you're not even doing that intentionally. It's just happening. And it seems so real. You wake up in a cold sweat, panic, scared, sad, right? Or you had a great dream. You're like, no, go back to bed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you want to re-experience that. You have a biological reaction to a thought alone. And you didn't even try to. Imagine if you were intentional.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just made a deal with myself. I'm not getting up until I connect to that end result experience I want to have in my actual daily life. When I connect to it, and I know because I'll have a biological reaction to it, then I'm allowed to get up from my meditation. And here's the key. When you connect to that, you'll know 100%. And then you start walking around throughout your day as if it's already happened. And something will remind you, just inadvertently, that you haven't yet experienced that. You haven't yet accomplished it. And it'll be like, oh, yeah, I forgot. I thought I already accomplished that. But when you break that state from that intention, because you set it first thing in the morning and you connected to it, as you go through your day and you break the state, that's the key. If you can pay attention to what broke my state, where did I give it away is really the accurate way to say that, is because if you break your state of being, it's because you chose to, consciously or unconsciously. And that thing that derailed you, man, that is your teacher. Why did that have such power and control over you in such a way that you broke your state?
Yeah.
Like, what a beautiful gift. So when you can make it through your day, still connected to that intention, man, it shows up so fast. I mean, everything that I've personally created that's beautiful and wonderful, like, it all came from that. And just full transparency, based on results lately of some things that I'm struggling with, I do not have a clear intention.
Yeah.
And that's weird to me, but sometimes, like, again, when you learn something and you implement it and you succeed with it, and then it's just second nature, but you stop paying attention to that, you're not intentional about staying connected to that process, it's real easy for the mind to go back to default, where you're not operating that way anymore. And then you got to, like, start from scratch again. Like, it's a whole relearning process. And it's like revisiting the book. You know what I mean? Like, just because you read it once doesn't mean you mastered it. You got to read it and read it and read it, that repetition. Well, so same thing with intention. It's a practice.
Yeah. And I like that, man. I think it truly is. It truly is a practice. The thing that I feel like I've been good about envisioning and visualizing and what I want to do, what I want to get to, and kind of sticking to those non-negotiables, right, per se.
Okay.
But one thing that just made it absolutely transparent, and this is that section of the 7 phases of intention was a game changer. And this is how they go. I'm going to just kind of recap them real quick, right? And then I'll explain how that kind of translated to the way that I see it. But phase number 1 is being creative. 2 is being kind. 3 is being love. 4 is being beauty, right? 5, being ever expansive. 6, being abundant. And then 7, being receptive. And from the space of being, as in the soul, right?
Yeah.
So you have, it just gave me 7 things, 7 pointers, 7 cues to look at throughout my day, right? As I'm walking down and, doing whatever I do on, like, in the day, if I get pissy about something, like, I'll ask myself, like, man, this shit keeps happening. Like, okay, am I being creative?
Yeah,
and am I going back? So am I tapping into that universal power, right? Am I thinking outside the box and being expansive? Am I going beyond my pragmatism, right? Am I being loving? If I'm pissed off against, I don't know, at something, some situation, there's resistance behind it.
Yeah.
Right. So when you're being loving and kind, that resistance just dissipates. It fades away. Right. So as I'm going through these seven phases of intention, it's like it becomes a no-brainer at the end of the day. Like if you're aware of all that stuff and you stay in alignment, right, you operate from that space of creativity, you operate of that space of kindness, and so on. I mean, you are going to stay in alignment with the power of intention. Again, intention it's an energy field.
Yeah.
It's not something that we do. It's not
It's
not a goal that we're writing on the wall, right? My intention is to make $1 million. Like, no, that's a goal. But when you tap into the power of intention, although that may be the ultimate outcome, the how you go about it and how you stay aligned with it, it's a totally different story, right? There's some things that we can do to align to things from within, right? But how do we stay tethered to that power as we're going through it?
Yeah. So you hit the nail on the head, and I want to just pinpoint this. Is like all those 7 phases of intention. None of them did it say what to do. It's how are you going to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that is nothing more than an energy.
Yeah.
And we can also say emotion, because emotion, energy, and motion. And emotion is just that. And so, like I was saying, like maintaining that state. So if you set your intention of I'm going to be abundant, I'm going to be creative, I'm going to be kind, I'm going to be loving, all of these things. And then again, something happens in your world externally. And if you break that state and go to resistance, because that shouldn't have happened, so this should have happened, right? Like the mind comes into play. The power in maintaining that state is to realize that it is an energy, and that's going to drive behaviors that are only in alignment with your energy. Do you know what I mean? Like,
and it's going to drop your energy.
Yeah. So if you break that state, there was something that triggered you. You're no longer in that high vibrational state. I mean, I don't know how to make it more simple than that. Like, don't complicate this. You know what I'm saying? But people want to overcomplicate it because they don't understand it. And the best way to understand it is, well, you can also read that book many times and listen to this podcast many times until you actually get it and it clicks. You know what I mean? Like it's not, it's a simple concept, but the implementation is a bit of a bitch. It takes practice. You know what I mean? It is. Intention is a practice. And there'll be days where you just don't have it in you, or you don't care, or you're resentful, or whatever, fine. But again, are you loving, connected, creative when you're in that state? And it's a damn choice. So if you're pissed off at the world, cool. Don't bitch about the consequences of your state of being. That's going to create more of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know, when we have something to help us correct, right? And just realign ourselves. A lot of times it's all we need. Like our original intention was something, that probably indicated growth, indicated prosperity, and fulfillment, right?
Yeah.
So somehow, some way, we fell from grace in that space.
100%.
And I think that's where faith is lost, right? I see people who jump into the personal growth space all the time, and they get they go gun ho for 3 months. Mm-hmm. And then things are not manifesting. All of a sudden there's like, and you're kind of like, at that point you're broken. You're kind of somewhat in the middle. You're not naive and ignorant to how energy works, right, and the power of the universe. But you're not there. Like you're not hanging out with the power of the universe yet. You're kind of in the middle. So you're going like that. I know I was that lost child forever. For a long time. So you kind of, find your space. And it's interesting. It's going to be a little bit of a tangent, but what happens is that conversations get awkward, right? Now you have conversations that are very mundane, that they just don't grab your interest like they used to.
That's why I'm not social.
And then you have, other conversations that are just, wow, mesmerizing. I don't understand them yet because I'm not there yet. Right.
But it's stimulating. It's exciting. It's
yeah, exactly. So you're kind of in the middle. You're like relearning this whole thing, and I feel like it can be tough when you're in that space because you don't have it quite figured out yet. Not that we ever do, but you're not standing on your own 2 feet again.
You don't have the evidence of it yet,
right,
that it's a real thing. This concept.
Yeah, I mean you're suspecting, right? All these things that are of how life works, but it can be confusing, and I feel like the holding on and staying in alignment to give the power of intention, give universal power, really a means of tapping into our lives, and us holding on to it, more importantly, I feel, and letting it be a guide in terms of higher vibration.
Yeah,
it can be a challenging thing. Why? Because we get pessimistic. We get
if I'll
We'll go
share
back to default.
Yeah,
So,
100%. Well, because it's not working because I don't see the result yet,
Yeah.
right? And therein lies the problem. Like
Yeah.
the way that I was able to stay intentional and create beautiful things from that space, that state, is because I had a realization. If I say that this doesn't work, because I had a coach that told me to do it, many of them,
Yeah.
and whether it was listening to Wayne Dyer books and Joe Dispenza and Coach Al and all of these different resources, they're saying the same thing differently, but all paths lead to home. And I just had the awareness one day of like, wait a minute, they're all telling me to do this thing. There's no tangible evidence that it's true or going to work.
Yeah.
However, what makes me think that I'm so right about my way based on my results? Like, what evidence do I have that my way is better than this? So
Yeah.
I don't have one. They do have results that I like. Why don't I just borrow their belief and just stay on the course? Besides, what the hell else am I doing that's a better use of my time? I might as well do this. I'm paying money for these people to tell me to do it. They're all saying the same thing. Let me just go out on a limb and act as if, right?
What if I listened and left my biases just outside of that door for a little bit?
Exactly. And like, what makes me think I'm so right? And there it is right there. It's like, it's the mind, right? The mind, like, it thinks about two things. How do I get what I want?
Yeah.
And how do I avoid what I don't want? If you're listening to that, it's running the show. It's no longer the servant, it's the master. You're the servant to it. And it's like, you got to reframe that relationship to realize that it is a servant of me. Like, I get to direct this thing. So if I hear it talking and it's contradicting what my intention is, there's a way to drown that out, and not through resistance. But anyways, that's a different podcast. Like, do you have a better way that you have evidence than to just practice this to the best of your ability, day by day, moment by moment? And the thing about it is, like, patience. A lot of people, they do a thing to get a thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's an agenda to it. And so if they do a thing and they put forth the effort, what they're really doing is like a bidding or a barter or a trade. It's like, and if they don't get what they want, they think it doesn't work. And it's like, I've said this analogy before. We go to a restaurant and the waiter comes up and we order our food. Now, when the waiter leaves to put in our order, do you really ever question if the food's going to arrive? No.
You're just waiting for it.
Yeah. And what do you do in the meantime? Are you upset? No. You're having a conversation. You're enjoying yourself, knowing, trusting the process that it's going to come out sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
So why don't you enjoy yourself in the meantime? Instead of being stressed out or have that desperation, that scarcity, like, chill out.
Another thing that I realized too is that the tendency or the need, almost like the instinct, right, to become or be all those things that align with the power of intention, they happen after the result kicks in, right? So I'm gonna wait until I get my result to be creative, to be kind, to be loved.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
to be love.
It's the Newtonian law of physics, cause and effect, right? When that cause happens, it'll affect
to
me.
appreciate life, to slow down and smell the roses.
Yeah. You've got to be that to see
exactly.
it.
But it's interesting how it's really how it works. We're putting the carriage before the horse, really. I mean, as we're going through that process, and it's interesting. But I think it comes down to breaking mental patterns, right? We're used to okay, I have to put in the work to feel good once I get the result, right? Like it's that's the MO. But if you, think about it for a second, right? How beautiful is it to get into this state of intention and just understand that things are working, even though like it maybe hasn't manifested yet in its physical form and it's not right in front of you. You can't drive it, you can't, whatever. But it's coming. Like, that emotion is already having you in the winner's seat.
Yep. 100%.
That energy, that higher vibration is already having you in the winner's seat.
Yeah.
And I feel like when you figure out how to hack that, how to tap into that high sense of energy, like that higher vibration, that's the win right there. It's not the tangible. The tangible is going to get
achievement.
Yeah, but it becomes a byproduct as opposed to like the thing that's going to give me that emotion, that high vibration, right? That I'm striving for.
100%. And so I think where people go wrong and mess up this whole equation is just that. Like, they think that I'm going to feel successful when I get that money.
Right.
I'm going to feel like abundant when that happens. I'm going to feel loved when this happens. It's like, wrong. You got to flip the script and feel those feelings those elevated emotions now. Like Joe Dispenza, long story short, but went to a seminar where he did this meditation. I don't know what the hell he was doing, but I just followed the instructions. And he said, watch within 24 hours what happens. Sure as shit, what I meditated on happened. And I didn't do anything to make it happen. Jason, same thing. Another buddy went with us, also Justin, nothing. Why? He didn't do the meditation. Like, it was very simple. If you take that thing that you want and list out some intentions, like, why do you even want that? What do you think you're going to get from it? You know what I mean? And then what are the elevated emotions you would experience when it happens?
Yeah.
Good. Now you take on that state now to the point where you're experiencing it. And within 24 hours, man, boom, it just appeared. It was weird.
And if you think about it, I mean, just following like this simple 7 phases, right, of intention. If you're thinking about a higher and elevated emotion, if you're doing all these things, you're being creative, kind, love, you're seeing beauty in the smallest things, right? You're being ever expansive, so you have growth and fulfillment going on in your life. You're being abundant and thinking abundantly, right? And seeing abundance all over the place, and being receptive as to like your awarenesses and this, you know, the state of mind that you're in on a regular basis and all that stuff. How is that not a higher vibration already?
In every way, shape, and form.
So I think, I mean, it goes by default, goes hand in hand with that part of visualizing. Right?
Yeah. It keeps you in that state.
Yeah, it puts you in that state, and it's a beautiful thing. So I'm seeing things happen. I'm seeing things manifest. I'm seeing relationships. I'm seeing just even my workload on some stuff that I've been asking myself recently. Like, man, why do I have to make it so hot and heavy all the time?
I feel attacked right now.
No. So why does it always have to be a grind, right? On certain areas of my life.
Yeah.
And then, in terms of just some of the practicals of the businesses. And next thing you know, it's like, no, like this thing, my intention is to make it, something that flows, something that I can work with. I can move a lot faster and I can, knock one thing out and then move on to the next one, enjoying the entire journey. So like, it's been the premise. And next thing you know, like there's, I don't know, that a new AI pops up and is like helps me do things in half the time. So that's what the alignment, is for. That's where that comes in, right? Well, it doesn't happen though if we're always looking at the
what's missing,
or always looking at what's missing, because we're going to be living in that lower vibration field, and our intentions, right, our goals may be as high as the moon. It doesn't matter, but if we're not in alignment with the energy that causes that to happen, with the vibration, the high vibration that causes stuff like that to happen. Good vibrations are high, low, or, bad vibrations are low.
Well, think about emotions, right?
Emotions and energy flow all together, right? So like we're gonna be tapping into that state of mind. It's gonna be contradictory to what we are envisioning.
Yeah, well, and we're not used to this practice, right?
If we don't stand in alignment,
Yeah. So, but here's the deal: like, emotions are an energy. Yes, it's energy and motion.
Yes.
Think about it. Like when you feel loved and everything is all loving because you found that one, right?
Yeah.
Like everything's great and wonderful. It's hard to be depressed when you're feeling that. Yeah. If things are going your way, you're not pissed off, irritated, frustrated, and a lower vibration. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, but having those emotions, invoking them, cultivating, generating them is a choice. Like, I don't care what's going on in your life. It could be really bad because you say it is, but you can still choose to see the beauty in it, in everything. Right. Like, and every bad, if you want to label it that, there's some good. You know what I mean? And you don't realize it in the moment, but after the fact, you're like, I'm so glad that happened to me. It was the worst thing and the best thing all at the same time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so like, when you're in an elevated state because you chose to have elevated emotions, because it's just a choice, and sometimes it's a difficult choice, it's hard to be depressed. It's hard to be unmotivated. It's hard to be uninspired when you're in an elevated state, right? So if you find yourself in not so much of an elevated state, you get to check in with that and say, okay, if I want to be in a flow state where things are just unfolding for my benefit, that would mean then I have to be in a elevated state of being.
Yeah.
And I'm in a low one right now. Why? Because things aren't going my way. I'm not getting what I want. Like, okay, Eeyore, like, choose again. Moment by moment, you get a choice of how you want to be.
Right.
Like, choose wisely. It doesn't matter what's going on in your external reality. The fact of the matter is you have a vote.
Yeah.
Exercise it.
You have vote. And if you feel outside of that, I mean, what I'm doing now is if I feel I'm outside of alignment, I keep thinking about those things, right? I go back to that receptiveness, and it's like, oh man, I got to redirect here.
Hey, listen, when I want to burn it to the ground, I just phone a friend. Someone you trust, and they'll hold the trash can and just let you do a pity party and vomit it out.
Oh, yeah.
Get rid of that energy, and then you naturally kind of elevate a little bit. And you're like, okay, I'm done complaining. Thanks for letting me vomit and holding the trash can, right? Like, you got to have support.
Yeah.
And if you don't have any, well, that's weird. You know what I mean? Like, you've got someone in your corner. And if not, like, well, you know where to find us.
You know what the next step is.
Yeah. Now, if someone holds a trash can and allows you to vomit, when you clean yourself up, you're expected to choose differently now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you can't just continue the pity party.
Yeah.
Go do something with it.
That's not an alignment.
No. And
that's not ever expansive.
No.
I mean, first off, it'll break that rule.
It's very victim-y to stay there.
So it's, I mean, I feel like it's as true as the laws of physics and gravity.
It is.
And I mean, you throw something up, it's going to come back down, right? And it's the same thing here on in the sense of how intention works and how can we tap into it. So recap on those 7 things that are really being game changers for me at this moment, right? Be creative with your state of mind. Be creative about the life that you want to envision. Be creative about what's coming at you, about solving new problems. Right?
What's possible.
Be kind to the world around you, not necessarily just people. Be kind to the world around you, right?
Yeah.
Be love. Even if somebody's being an ass to you, doesn't mean that we can't come back through a loving presence, right?
Well, chances are it's not you that they're mad at anyway, so stop being so selfish.
Yeah, exactly.
About you.
Be beauty, and I think this was a big catalyst for me a few years back. I didn't understand that. Like, what does that even mean? Like, do I have to wear makeup or what?
That's why you do that.
That's why. Like, don't judge me. I feel criticized right now.
No, it's just
no, but it's be beauty, right? Meaning, see the beauty in the world, see the beauty around you, right? We can encompass beauty. If you're in a state of darkness or whatnot, and a butterfly flies by, I mean, man, pay attention to how wonderful and how majestic that thing is. Look at the wings. Look at the patterns that they sign. There's beauty all over the place if we know how to find it, and that's the beauties in the little things. I truly feel it is
just the energy of life itself, and whether it's a plant, a butterfly, a human, it doesn't matter. Like, life itself, the intelligence is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Ever expansive. I mean, growth. We have a need, especially if you're an entrepreneur and an achiever, right? Being ever expansive in all senses of life, in the sense of relationship, in the sense of personal growth, in
health.
The sense of profession, health, wealth, right? Just growing. For the sake of just having the ability to do it, not necessarily because it's greed or anything like that. It's like you do it because you can. You have that blessing, that gift, that opportunity to do it.
Yeah, not to get something, but just because you can.
Yeah, the getting is going to be a byproduct, and it's going to come.
100%.
Right? Being abundant, man. That was one of the things I struggled with the most, because my financial thermostat was very, very tight, very, very tight growing up, and I just didn't see it, right. So I didn't. Man, abundance was like, what does that even mean?
Yeah,
like you having an overflow of whatever. Like it was a far-fetched thing, but being abundant also means it's not just on the financial side. Being abundant in emotion, being abundant in friendships, being abundant in contribution. I mean, there's so many different ways to help.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then being receptive, I think that's the one that's we call it awareness. Right. And but understanding, okay, like, where am I at this particular point in life? Where do I want to get to? Am I in alignment? Am I in my highest and best self, or am I allowing myself to be steered off by my ego, and just outside stuff that doesn't even matter at the end of the day? Right?
Well, yeah, exactly. And a sign of abundance is also receptivity.
Right.
Meaning, like, I'm allowing things in, all things, information, people, circumstances, not in resistance. I'm not blocking anything. So, but I do want to say, like, if you take a look at your results, the tangibles, your bank account, what the number is on the scale, your relationships, how many of them, all of that, all those results, they're equal to the energy of your intent.
Yep.
And, like, all the results are predictable. really, if you're paying attention,
Yeah.
based on the conversation before you even get started on a thing. So the power of intention is immense. And if you want to develop that skill, that muscle, you just got to get started. Like you just got to choose and give yourself permission to make mistakes, to fail, if you want to call it that. Get back up and go at it again. Like what else you doing? It's a better use of your time. You know what I mean? Like it's a practice. So
Absolutely.
go swing. You know what I mean?
So yeah, hopefully you guys are enjoy this conversation as much as we did. I'm gonna drop a link to the book, and again, not that I want to turn this into a book club, but I think to me it it's been a big point of reflection over several years, and every single time I go back to it, I learn something bigger and better from it. So.
Yeah, well, I would say this is a very important topic, and it deserves to be studied. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when you have an experience of it, it's like, it's the awesome
Justin,
power.
Are you trying to say they need to be intentional about this?
Oh, that would be a good idea.
Ooh.
Oh, look at that. Full circle.
You see what I did? All right.
Wow.
Justin, where can somebody get a hold of you if they want to reach out?
Yeah, all social media platforms, YouTube at Mindset Coach JT, or my cell phone, 602-348-8534.
Fire. All right, fam, do us a big favor. Subscribe, like, and share if you like the content that we put out for you on a regular basis. I mean, just help us spread the word. Again, it's a two-way street. It's a two-way conversation. Drop your comments in the chat. Let us know if there's any topics that you want to tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Until then, we're just going to keep bringing our dirty laundry to the podcast.
Love it. Clean it up.
And cleaning it up from there. So with that being said, make sure you follow me too. I'm on all social media, IG at Rafael Cortez CEO, Facebook, and YouTube, Rafael Cortez CEO. So until then, or until the next one, we'll catch you guys later, and stay focused. You got this. Let's go.